With Godzilla King of the Monsters set to rule at the box office this weekend, it's time to stop and rank all three movies of the Monsterverse from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Sean Chandler, and I started this channel because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place and consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all three movies inside of the Monsterverse. Which ones do you love, which ones do you hate, and which one is right there in the middle? Before we get started, a lot of people ask me where I get my posters, where I get my Funko Pops, and what equipment I use to shoot my videos. There's a link down below in the description and the pinned comment that will take you to a list of my posters, my Funkos, and the gear that I use for my videos, and where you can pick them up as well. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is Godzilla King of the Monsters. While this one might be in last place, I think this movie probably delivers the most and the best monster destruction. We get this whole gallery of monsters from the Godzilla universe rising from the ground, and these titans battle it out, starting early in the film and all the way to the end of the film, and it moves at a nice brisk pace because of that. It develops this sense of urgency early on inside of the film involving the human subplot, and then in the first half of the film, monsters are unleashed and destruction starts occurring globally. And as it is a Godzilla movie, Godzilla gets in the action at the beginning of the film, in the middle of the film, and a big fight at the end of the film, and we get to explore him a little bit more as a character. I also appreciated that this film kind of dove into the deep end of the mythology of this world, with monsters being around for a while, ancient civilizations, Monarch, and all of their many different bases throughout the entire globe. There's a bunch of things about this film that I really enjoy. We spend a lot of time with our human characters, but they're all played by great actors that can deliver really ridiculous exposition and stupid lines in a way that sounds kind of convincing. But that kind of leads to our big problem here, is that the script is not good. There are just so many holes inside of the logic. The characters are all basically a job and a single personality trait. That's all of them. And they just got a great actor to try and perform that, but there's just no depth to anyone. Likewise, the plot line involving the mother, I don't think they understood the way that the audiences would take this character and where we would want this plot line to end in light of the way they set her up in the first 3/4 of the film versus what they do in the last quarter of it. I don't think it works at all. And even the monster action, though there's plenty of it, is shot so often in close-up or from the perspective of humans that it doesn't have the right effect that it should. It's not as exciting as it should be, even though there's a lot of it happening. So this is a movie that was very frustrating because of how stupid the mistakes it made were, even though it's got a great cast and plenty of monster action, which is what we go to movies like this to see. Our runner-up is Kong Skull Island. There's a bunch of things about this movie that I absolutely love. Right off the bat, just the aesthetics of this film, the color scheme that they chose, the way that they visualize the film's setting and the time that it takes place, all of that I love. It's the best of this entire trilogy of films. There's some shots in this movie that I think are gorgeous and really, really cool looking shots. Likewise, we get plenty of time with King Kong, whether he's battling helicopters, which is a fantastic sequence, battling a squid, which is another fun little sequence, or battling one of our gigantic skull creatures at the end of the film, another great little sequence. It's all done with fantastic special effects, nice wide shots so you can see what he's doing. It's dynamic, it's energetic, it's fun to see. As always with this film, the cast here is fantastic. They decided to look at the pool of people that worked in Marvel movies. There's at least 5 people from Marvel movies inside of this film. But also, like all of these films, these great actors are playing paper-thin characters who have a personality trait and one piece of backstory, and that's it for all of these different characters. You don't really know what's going on with Samuel L. Jackson's character and why he's this guy that doesn't want to leave the war and wants it to kind of keep on going on. Still, every time I watch this movie, for the first 45 minutes or so, and in the last 30 minutes, I think this might be my favorite movie in this Monsterverse because it's just so much fun and the aesthetics are so cool. but it really slogs down in the middle section for a little bit there. And I think some of it comes to the way that the director tells his stories, where he's very good at like sequences, but he's not great at tying the sequences together. The treatment of death is very odd inside of the film, where there's several different people who are dying. It's just kind of like shrugged off. Like there's this brutal death of the guy with the mustache who's taken off by the pterodactyls and torn to pieces, and it's just kind of shrugged off, and it's like, why did we kill that guy in such a brutal fashion and not really even acknowledge it? And then there's the heroic sacrifice death in the climax of the film that's played as like a punchline to a joke because it was pointless. Overall, it's a movie that has some things I absolutely love about it, some tons of fun, fantastic monster sequences, but the way the pieces all fit together just doesn't live up to those specific moments. But coming in at first place for me is Godzilla 2014. Now, the most common complaint about this film is that it keeps teasing Godzilla's about to battle a monster, and then as soon as it's about to happen, doors close, the movie cuts to a news broadcast, and we don't get to see that big showdown until you get to the final 15 minutes or so of the film. In fact, some people have added up, and there's like only 12 minutes of Godzilla inside of this film. It is a Godzilla movie. He is the title creature of the film, and so that's a totally valid criticism of the film, and to some extent, I agree with you. But I feel like if you take that and set that aside and just say, is there action in this movie? Is there monster mayhem all throughout this film? And there is. It might not be Godzilla on screen, but you see these other creatures destroying cities, destroying bases, traveling across the globe, people fighting them, people running from them on trains. There's mayhem throughout the whole film. And so when I first watched this film, I didn't feel like I was getting cheated on monster mayhem. I just didn't get to see my buddy Godzilla nearly as much. And because of that, it kind of builds this tension as you're waiting to see him. So it's very satisfying as you get to that climax, as he starts throwing down, doing his atomic breath, all that just the vomit, nuclear stuff into the guy's throat. All the stuff you want to see, you get it at the end of the film after it's built that anticipation throughout the film. Of course, as we've mentioned with all of these movies, the cast is always great. They're people that have great screen presence, though paper-thin characters, and that's true with this film as well. Some people have complained that there's not very much Bryan Cranston in the film. I timed it because I'd heard that criticism so many times. His character leaves the film at about 35 minutes into it, and he's very prominent on screen for about the whole beginning act of the film, in which case 35 minutes isn't that little of screen time for him. And I would say of these three films, this is the one that I think captures the vision of the director the best. This one, I think the director had this very intentional, deliberate pacing of when you did and didn't get to see things, the way it built towards a climax, and some people didn't particularly like what he was going for. I think it works well enough on its own terms. So for me, while it's still not a perfect film, it's not a great film, I think it's better than the other two films as it accomplishes what it's going for a little bit better than those two. So for me, it comes in at number 1. Be sure to share your ranking down below in the comments section, or check out that link down below if you want to find out where I get some of these posters or Funko Pops or what gear I use. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.